Submission Radio here with Richard Perez, ahead of UFC 241, brought to you by Musashi. Richard, what an open workout. I mean, we saw you were out there, you had some dance moves, there was some smoking involved, the crowd got involved. What was that experience like to be back in Anaheim and experience an open workout like that?
It's exciting right now. I'm happy to be back, and I know Nathan is too.
What did you think about Nate passing out the CBD cigarette to the crowd?
That's him. You never know what he's going to do. He's a big surprise.
Have you had a chance to try one of those cigarettes before?
No, I don't smoke. I mean, I've done when I was a kid, yeah.
What does this mean to you, sort of, to see Nate Diaz back in action after such a long layoff, against Anthony Pettis, sort of all people?
Well, I couldn't wait. I'm glad he's fighting Pettis. It'd be a good fight.
Was there times during this layoff that you sort of wished Nate Diaz would come back a little bit earlier?
No, the time's not bad because he was always training, so it didn't hurt him.
We've seen Nate have some hard lead-ups to fights before. You've spoken to us before about some tough injuries going into fights. What's he like physically going into this one?
He's in real good shape. Physically, he's good. Yeah, he's ready.
What do you think about the decision to fight at welterweight? I mean, we've seen him at welterweight before, but do you think this is his new home at welterweight, or do you think he might move back down in the future depending on what happens?
Right now it's good for right now. I mean, because he's been off for a while, so it's good at 170. And after this, we'll see.
What do you think this layoff has done for him in terms of physically, like the body? Nate obviously was in quite a few wars, especially with Conor McGregor. How would you say this has sort of affected him, these last few years off?
Oh no, he's fine. He just healed right back up. He's all right.
Do you think it's an advantage in a sense, sort of better for him to sort of heal up?
Well, I think it is because he was off for a while. He kept training, so it kind of built him up, and he kept in shape. So yeah, I think it was good.
You mentioned that he kept training. He mentioned it as well. What kind of was he training with you? Was it sparring? Was it the same kind of training someone would do while they're sort of fighting over those?
He does everything. He boxed, kickboxed, he did jiu-jitsu, he wrestled. Yeah, he did triathlons. So, yeah, he's always busy.
Do you think we'll see some improvements from him? Some new wrinkles from the last time that we saw him?
He's hitting harder.
He's hitting harder?
Yeah.
What do you think is sort of the reason for that?
Probably the time off and just training. Keep training.
Do you think
and
the weight?
He's at 170 too. So
I was going to say, do you reckon the weight's a little bit of a factor as well?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What do you make of Anthony Pettis? Obviously, he won over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Many people believe he was losing that fight. Anthony Pettis was before he won it. He had that war against Tony Ferguson. What do you think of the Anthony Pettis of today, the one that's coming into this fight?
Well, I imagine he's getting ready for it. So he's a good fight. It's a good fight for Nathan.
What do you think of Anthony's striking? Obviously, Taekwondo background. What do you think of his striking?
Well, he's got good Taekwondo striking, but Nathan's been training on it. Getting ready for it.
What do you think is sort of the biggest advantage that Nate has going up against a guy like Anthony?
The reach, the combinations that he throws. He keeps coming, he keeps throwing. So that's what I think the advantage is for Nathan.
What about as far as pressure boxing? Because obviously in the past, Anthony Pettis has sort of had a little bit tough against pressure boxers. Nate Diaz is obviously one of the best pressure boxers out there.
That's what he loves to do. That's what Nathan loves to do. That's him.
Anthony was out here before and he was talking about how he was preparing for the Stockton slap. What do you think about that? He's actually drilling Stockton slaps in his training leading into that fight, into this weekend. What does that make you think?
Well, we'll see because that's Nathan's. So he'll probably get slapped before anything.
What do you think of the Stockton slap as a technique? Because Anthony was kind of saying that it's actually a good setup.
Well, it's Nathan's setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's trying to do it, so it's him. So I don't know how Pettis is going to come out there and do it.
But do you think it's sort of effective as more? People sort of think it's a bit.
It's a mind game.
Yeah.
It's not something that you would practice in training effectively.
No,
it's just something that Nathan adds.
Yeah, it just happens. It's got to be natural, and that's what Nathan does.
Do you remember when you first saw the Stockton slap? Were you favorable with it, or were you like, hey, Nate?
I was like, whoa, man! Oh, you should have punched him. But
when was it? Do you remember when you first saw it?
It's been a long time. Yeah, he's done it for a while. Him and his brother. Yeah.
Obviously, people are wondering what's going to be next for Nate after this fight. Are you hoping this Conor McGregor thing happens after it? Do you think that's the thing that makes sense most after it, or do you think Nate moves on to someone else?
I think it's where the money's at. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Who do you think would be the biggest money fight for Nate Diaz?
McGregor.
What did you think of McGregor's loss to Khabib? Obviously, he lost to Khabib. He's spent some time away. If they do rematch, do you think it's the same Conor McGregor that he fought at 202, UFC 202? Or do you think this might be a worse version, a better version? What do you think?
I never know. I don't know the future. You never know. It could be a good one. I mean, at the last two, people were excited to watch it, and they keep talking about the three. So we'll see.
Unbelievable. As we wrap up, just a quick prediction from you, Coach. A lot of people wondering how this finishes. It's only 3 rounds, which is, of course, a big factor on this fight. How do you see this fight playing out?
Nathan winning. Yeah, Nathan winning.
How do you see that? Do you think this would have sort of been a bit of a, I guess, more intriguing fight if it was 5 rounds? Almost it would have been an advantage for Nate if it was 5 rounds.
It's an advantage for him for 3 or 5. He's been training for this. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll check out the Perez Boxing Gym, one of the best gyms out there, of course, to represent. And Richard, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck in this weekend. It's great to speak to you. It's been too long since we've spoken. You have to come back on the program.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much, Richard. Appreciate it.